You're listening to the Chelsey Holm podcast, where high-functioning Christian women come to lay down performance, pick up presents, and finally come home to who God created them to be. I'm Chelsey, the wife coach, mindset trainer, and your guide back to God-first living, soul-deep peace, and restored connection in your marriage, your motherhood, and identity. If you've been holding it all together on the outside while unraveling on the inside, you're in the right place. Let's breathe deep and begin.
I want to meet you right where you are, but I do not want to leave you there. I see this so often with the women that I'm working with. It's not the women who are all in, who are walking with the Lord, who have, a desire to put God first. They're not struggling in this capacity as I know you are. You haven't fully submitted to the Lord yet. You're still looking at God through your earthly father lens. And it is casting a shadow on everything you're doing. You're showing up from this place of striving, of fixing, of forcing, of doing things out of obligation or compulsion or straight up survival mode. And you are not understanding yet, but you will. You are not understanding yet what it actually looks like to completely surrender and to trust what God is doing in you, through you, and for you. Because you're still trying to figure it all out, right? This was totally me. Like, I had to figure it out. I had to figure out how to fix my marriage. And I bought books. I did courses. I talked to friends. I did so many things in an effort to try to figure it out because I felt like I was the problem and I needed to fix it and find the solution. And if I didn't, I felt like it was all going to fall apart. But what I was failing to understand is that God was the one who restored our marriage miraculously. And he came in the last inning with all the points. Okay, I don't understand sports that much, but that's okay. I tried to bring in a baseball reference there, and I don't really know that much about baseball, so that's okay. Yeah, baseball. I always tried to play when I was a kid, and for some reason I always got hurt right before the season started, and I just never developed a like for it. And I was standing out in the field and pick flowers when I would practice and play, so not for me. So maybe not do the sports analogies. Okay, note to self. But I understand where you're coming from, right? I understand this need because you have not done the inner child work yet, where you understand that your past is informing your present and how you're showing up. That your parents did the best they could with what they had, so you can honor them for that, but also need to understand that it got you here, but if you want to grow and you want to have a marriage that you haven't observed or witnessed or experienced or been around, things are going to have to shift within you. And it's not about you fixing it, it's about surrendering completely to God. So there was a moment where I had just come to the end of myself, and this is what I want you to hear. We have to come to the end of ourselves, the end of our, I can figure this out, I can fix this, the end of our own plans and control before or on the cusp of full surrender to the Lord and trust in Him, that the no matter what, the Daniel of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Our God can and He is able, but even if He doesn't, we have to come to that point, even if He doesn't. And so I had this moment. We were living in Oshkosh. We had our 3 kids, 3 under 3. I was putting one of them to sleep. I remember standing next to a crib, so they were all young, so it could have been any of them. I don't know. But I just remember feeling so desperate, and this is what it felt like to be at the end of myself, of I literally have no idea what is going to happen. In my brain, everything has been destroyed. There is no coming back from this. I do not know what we're going to do, or what I'm going to do. But I said, God, I've had enough, essentially, of me trying to figure it out on my own strength and my own understanding. And I said, you are God, and I am not. And I don't have the answers, but you do. And I know that no matter what, if my marriage is not restored, if my marriage is completely destroyed and it can't come back, you are still God and you are still good and you are going to provide for me. And I trust you no matter what. I know you're able. I know you can restore what we've broken. And I cannot. But even if you don't, I know you are not going to leave me or forsake me. Even if my husband leaves me or forsakes me, you are not going to do that. And so I had to come to the end of myself where everything in me was completely poured out. I got out of my own way so that the Lord could step in and do what only He was able to do. And that was to get into my husband's heart and take him into that magical shower, as you've heard me say before, that my husband was planning to take a shower, pack up, and leave that night. Leave us, leave me, the kids, move out of the house to go be with, I don't even know, whatever woman it was at that time, okay? And there was nothing I could do. Like, I had said everything I could, and I had done everything I could in the sense of saying things, trying to force, trying to fix, and none of my attempts were fruitful. None of them. And so I was at the end of myself, and God took him in that shower, that holy magical shower, and reminded him of the truth that he was raised on. The truth that there is no way you can justify leaving the wife of your youth for someone else. There is no way that you can do this and call it good. There is no way that you can do this and look your children in the eye and say you are a faithful man of God. And those are the things God said to his heart. Those are things that I couldn't do. And my husband came out of that shower in agreement with the Lord, not liking it. He still didn't want to be there, but out of obedience and covenant, he chose to say. He chose to surrender. Now, God restored what we broke to smithereens, but it had to come at the end of ourselves. And so, meeting you where you're at, I understand. I know what it's like to be pouring yourself out, trying to figure out what you can do, trying to force yourself to be what you think your husband needs, or being so completely overwhelmed with the resentment and the anger and the hurt that you are completely checked out. And just stuck in this, victim mentality of I have no control over anything. I don't even know what you're talking about. While still desperately trying to control the things that you can. Like, I understand each of these facets. But you have to come to the end of yourself, the end of your strength. Like, this is what Paul was saying in Romans, that in my weakness, his strength is shown, right? His grace is sufficient for me. We have to come to the end of ourselves in order for him to transform us, to restore our situations, to restore the years the locusts have eaten when it comes to our marriage. But the only way that happens is if we surrender and lean in. And until you do that, until you lay down the gauntlet of trying to figure out how your finances are going to work out, how you lay down trying to fix the conversations with your husband, lay it all down. Like, there is a reason Jesus said, leave it all behind. Pick up your cross and follow me. And the guy who was like, I gotta go bury my dead daddy. And he's like, the dead will bury themselves. Right? The rich young ruler, I don't want to sell all my possessions. He wasn't happy that Jesus told him, you're not going to find fulfillment in your possessions. It's only in me. He didn't like that. Okay? There is a reason why Jesus says, leave everything behind and follow me. And only then are you going to feel peace amidst chaos? Are you going to feel present amidst a society that is ridiculously chaotic and high speed and high paced and wow, like so much pressure? The schedules alone, travel, sports, oh my word, like, I know because I know, right? Only in surrender are you going to be able to have the internal shifts to be able to navigate the external situations, including with your spouse and your kids. But it has to start with the right order, and the right order is God first. And I know you're saying God is first, but your lack of peace says otherwise. One of my friends in Bible study said that peace is the litmus test of our trust in the Lord, how deeply we're rooted in Him, if we're abiding in Him or not. So how much peace, truly, not fake stuff, right? Not disassociating or checking out or endlessly scrolling or numbing yourself, none of that. When you are alone with yourself, how much peace do you have? And if the answer is none, it's time to come to the end of yourself and to completely surrender to the Lord. Your level of peace is a direct indicator of your priorities, of the order of your life. And you're saying God is number one priority. So many people. I mean, this is still technically a Christian nation, right? Founded upon Christian values. I don't even know the percentages anymore of people who identify as a Christian. But when it actually comes down to practicing it and our order of life priorities, like I just had a friend yesterday share about this, that the word priorities, or I think priorities, didn't come around, or priority, I think it was priority, didn't come around until the 20th century, and priorities is actually a very new age idea and concept, because we should have one priority, and that is God. Seek first His kingdom, and everything else will be added to you. Right? And so what does it actually look like? And I've been walking through this with my kids, and I had to start with myself, because more is caught than taught. I'm going to say this over and over and over again. Your words are empty if they are not witnessing you doing the things that you're saying. And so I tell my kids every single day, you may say that God is your first priority, but how you spend your time, what gets your best and your first, is actually your priority. And so every morning, I wake up before my kids, not because I have to, because I want to be with the Lord first and the best of my day. I want everything rooted in Him, and everything else, right, comes after. And so my kids, knowing that I did this and also wanting to shift their priority, they asked me, Mom, can you wake us up early? My oldest 3. Mom, can you wake us up earlier so we can do this with you? And I said, sure. And I was like, oh man, that means I got to get up even earlier, because I still want to have my time with the Lord first, right? And so, and so, I did. It was rough for a few days, but we got into the groove. And now I'm waking my 3 oldest up, and we're watching a Bible study together, and then we're discussing it, and we're praying. And we're not praying like, I hope they have a great day. Like, no, I'm praying that, like, God, you know their hearts. You know their desires and their wire for pleasure. Dig in and show them, convict them of where they're going astray, and guard them against the ideas of this world. And let them stand firm in you. Like, we are going deep, man. And it's changing slowly how they're interacting and how they're showing up. Attitudes are shifting. And when I do have teaching moments with them, it is much more quickly received, right? And how is that true of us? When we're walking with the Lord and something is brought to our attention, we're convicted of something, when you understand what it looks like to surrender to the Lord and what that means for your life, I want to surrender as quickly as possible and be like, let's go. Let's do this, Lord. Thank you for exposing that. Like, let's go. I confess it as sin. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's rip it out. Right? We're not dabbling. We're ripping it out. Okay? And so this is about surrender. You can't surrender to your husband until you surrender to the Lord. I mean, come on. I know you think you can, because I thought I could too. I thought that it was about me doing and striving and being the solutions and bringing the answers, and it wasn't that at all. It was me coming to the end of myself and recognizing I am not God. I'm thankful for that. Now, God, what are you going to do in me and through me? What is the good work you are still working to complete in me that you are not finished with me yet? And until you get to that point, that is where you're at now, before that point. When I say I'm meeting you where you're at, I'm meeting you in that lack of surrender. I'm meeting you in that place where you're still holding on tight. You're still controlling. You're still trying to figure it out, right? You're trying to figure out how the numbers are going to math, right? The math is going to math in your finances. You're still trying to figure it out how you're going to take care of yourself if your husband doesn't come around, if God doesn't restore your marriage, or if God I don't want to say tries, but if we still have a free will, right? So how about instead we look at God restoring you, healing you, releasing you from things so that you can then impact without a word to your husband. Because again, even with kids, more is caught than taught. But hey, how about our husbands? Same thing, right? They're going to feel that shift in us, and that's why I do the work that I do. That's why we do inner child. We go back to go forward. That's why we do nervous system regulation, because we got to get you out of survival mode and into present, relaxed. That's why we do emotional regulation, so that you can walk in the Spirit and talk in the Spirit or listen in the Spirit, right? And to practice emotional health, emotional maturity, to help you get out of patterns and processes that are hurting everyone and getting the result you want, but at your expense and your husband's expense. And to help you to create new patterns and processes where oneness and connection and surrender to God is the foundation. So I'm not going to leave you where you're at. I am going to leave you here with this question. What do you need to surrender to the Lord? I have always had this image in my head of holding my fist tightly. And I think of Abraham and Isaac, and how Abraham had Isaac, his only son, when he still knew the promise of God was that his generations, like his kids, would outnumber the stars. But Abraham only had this one son, and God asked him to take him and lay him on the altar and sacrifice him, so that God would know, and that he would know, what his priority was. So what is it that God has promised you, but you are looking at the one thing in front of you that you're holding on tightly when God wants to bless you like the number of the stars? What are you holding on to that you need to let go and open your hands in full surrender to the Lord? My God is able, but even if he doesn't, I will still bow to him. And go to God. That is one question he loves to answer. Go to God and say, God, show yourself to me. Teach me how to trust you. I am laying it all down at your feet. Show up and show off, God, here. For your glory, for my growth, and for the good of others.
Thanks for hanging out with me today. And remember, you do not have to become something else to be loved. You just have to return to who God already created you to be, deeply you. If this episode blessed you, share it with a friend or leave a quick review. It really does help other women find the hope and healing you just received. And don't forget, your marriage, your peace, and your joy, it's not too far gone. Nothing is too broken for God to redeem or restore. God's just getting started.